If you're shopping while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast, then you know and love the thrill of a deal. But are you getting the deal and cash back? Rakuten shoppers do. They get the brands they love, savings, and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Target, Sephora, and even Expedia. Stack sales on top of cash back and feel what it's like to know you're maximizing the savings. It's easy to use, and you get your cash back sent to you through PayPal or check. The idea is simple. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back. Download the free Rakuten app or go to Rakuten.com to start saving today. It's the most rewarding way to shop. That's Rakuten, Rakuten.com.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Sam Ben-Ruby, and this is The Wine List. The Wine List is a new, fast-paced podcast featuring the best-in-class wine guests. Each week, I will ask our guests 5 questions about their current wine and food preferences. The same 5 questions I've asked everyone from day one on the Grape Nation. Get ready for the most diverse and interesting recommendations to try now. We'll also find out what's going on in our guests' world. This week, we talked to Ed Szymanski, the chef, owner, and head wino at Lord's, Dame, and Crevette restaurants in New York City. Hailing from across the pond in London, Ed, along with his wife, Patricia, in less than a half a decade, have created some of New York City's most beloved and critically acclaimed restaurants, each with their own identity. Welcome to The Wine List, Ed.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, Ed, we're going to get right into it.
Sure.
We're going right to the wine list, and then, we'll paddle around a little later and find out some stuff. So, you're a wine lover. I know that from reading and talking to people. You oversee what seems to be a personally curated and interesting set of wine lists at each restaurant.
Thank you.
So, we'll get into that through the wine list and other stuff. But I want you to know, and I told you this off mic, you are our first guest on the new Wine List podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
So I'll never forget our first episode because it's Ed. And when people say to me, who was your first guest, I'll always remember it's Ed. So congrats to being the inaugural guest on this episode. All right. So we're going to go into the original 5 questions, along with some additions and twists. The 5 questions will always be there, but, I'll add or, twist it a little. All right. So the first question has always been, what are you drinking now? Talk to me more personal outside the restaurant. What's on the counter at home? What's in the fridge? You and Patricia having dinner.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're drinking. Seasons are changing, but it's kind of hot today.
Right. Well, we have a young daughter at home, and we don't drink as much as we used to. So it used to be the 2-bottle, 3-bottle nights. Now probably
no
1-bottle
kidding.
Nights, which is best for everyone's health, I think.
You sleep better, probably.
If we're drinking white wine, I'm opening something from Burgundy that's a little bit more esoteric or out there or interesting, or maybe not quite as commercially available here. So recently we drank the Jessica Litaud wines. She's a producer in
so the maker is Jessica?
Jessica Litaud.
Spell the last name.
Litaud. Jessica
Litaud.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic winemaker. Only a few vintages under her belt. I think, maybe 5 or 6. We have some of the 2020s and 21s. So we drank these quite textural, quite like aromatic and generous styles of Burgundy from the Macon, where wine is somewhat affordable still.
Right.
So those are sort of weeknight wines. And if we're drinking red wine, which is more common, because my wife prefers sort of lighter styles of red wine,
So she's more of a red wine person?
She is.
Depending on the time of the year and even the food?
Yeah,
that's more of her go-to?
She used to be a big Syrah drinker, and now she likes wines from the Jura and lighter expressions, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I like both of those things. So
give me some Like the Latade, I've never had anyone recommend that. This
Oh,
is why we do it.
Yeah,
You know,
well, they're not imported here, but they're quite available in the UK
well,
where I'm
if
from.
you go travel abroad, you look for them.
Yeah, and I think, people will bring them in here. She works under Jean-François Ganavat, which is a little bit
good chops.
known in sort of the European natural wine circles because of that, but also just because the wines are delicious.
So what are Patricia's Reds?
If we have Langlois at home, we'll be drinking that, especially some of the older ones. The Tavel vintage, but also they make such a range of cuvées. So,
do you have access because of being a restaurant owner? Like, will you get your allotment of those and maybe grab one or two, whatever you want for home?
Yeah, actually, so they were imported 5 or 6 years ago, and then that stopped, and they're now imported again through Kermit. And so we get a case allocation at the restaurants, and we'll sell the majority of them, but then we'll take a few home and enjoy them.
Was he always the importer, Kermit, or it switched to him?
It switched. It used to be a guy called Fifi, then through Stephen Graff, and
so it jumped around.
It jumped around back in the day.
Will Kermit Lynch do a good job with it?
I think so. Yes, I
mean,
so.
They know what they're doing.
They do, and especially that part of the world. The challenge is that the kids have started taking over in the winery, and so it's for them to form their new relationships with domestic American importers, and it's a really bad time, I think, to try and forge relationships with an American importer. If you hear this crazy news about it's not just tariffs, it's the political scene here makes it. If you're a French winemaker and you make very popular wines that everyone around the world wants, they say, well, why do I need to send them there? We'll send a little bit, see how it goes, but
it's tough because there's such a awareness and respect for those wines. Everyone would love to have them, drink them, buy them, or whatever.
Exactly.
All right, so those are great ones. Quickly, what's popular in the restaurants right now? Do you see a thread or a trend just right now?
Yeah. Well, like high level trends, if 10 years ago was the world of rosé and 7 to 8 years ago was the world of orange wine, this is the world of chilled red wine today. That's what we see as being our best sellers across the three restaurants. So it's either darker rosés, but normally it's true red wines, but made with a light touch, and then people want them served cold, especially this time of year and sort of transitional summer to fall season.
It's a perfect transition.
So I think that's the biggest trend in the wine world, as well as this move away from like dogmatically natural wine into more classically tasting wine, although perhaps not conventionally made. So we see that, especially at our, we have 3 restaurants. One of them is very quirky and casual. The second one is like a wine lover's haven with a huge list and a deep cellar and food that pairs with it. And then this one we're sitting in right now, the new one, is a little bit more elegant and upscale. And here we sort of, we have people who want to drink Burgundy around $100.
So the wine list carries that elegance a little.
Yeah,
it addresses the food, the environment.
I mean, I think that's my biggest contribution inside to our wine programs is to, being the chef and the wine director, really matching the cuisine and the wine with the style of the restaurant. Very important.
That makes sense to me. All right. Second question, maybe the goofiest, but I love it. And I love it asking guys like you, favorite wine and food pairing.
Oh.
Yours,
Mine.
not you, because I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, but it's obviously something you don't eat every week, maybe every month, maybe a really rare one that you get the ooh and ah from. What is it?
Oh, there's a lot of good options there.
What goes to the top of the list?
Top of the list, the first thing that comes to my mind
That's
is
what I'm
eating
for.
a grilled turbot in a butter sauce and drinking a bottle of Chave Hermitage Blanc from the late aughts.
Because of the butter richness,
Yeah.
the fish is not your plain. The white Hermitage has the body.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the reason?
Yeah, and the density to match that. I mean, texturally, the flesh of turbot is my favorite fish. Is
Right.
much firmer than most other fish you'd find, and it works particularly well with fuller body white wines and the butter sauce. But it's also like a pairing I've had specifically before, and I just think if there's no Hermitage,
Nobody has ever said that, and it makes total sense to me. And I love that you went to the Hermitage which traditionally is known for how much output is red wine.
Right. I'll take Reyes Blanc if there's no Hermitage Blanc too.
All right, so what do you think is the classic wine and food pairing? Is it the old Pinot and roasted chicken? I mean, what comes to mind in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I came of age in a like memeified world where everyone was hopping on this fried chicken and champagne pairing. That's like
champagne and anything fried, and then it went to pizza.
Yeah. So there were all these think pieces on like food blogs about,
remind everyone, because on this podcast, it's been explained why that works, fried chicken and champagne.
Yeah, I mean, acidity and fat, I think, we talk about this with our guests and creating experiences for our guests. Like, you either want complementary pairings or contrasting pairings. And the Chave and the turbot is a complementary pairing, but the champagne and the fried chicken is a contrasting pairing.
Right.
If you want something to cut through all the fat and the crispness of the fried chicken or the acidity, the fineness of champagne is really that is a incredible pairing if you find the right champagne for it.
Right. That's a whole different, that you could do a podcast on that. Because you're so well versed and passionate about food and wine, I guess not just Crevette because we're sitting here, but I guess let's do Crevette. Does the food drive your wine list? Does the wine drive your food list? Your menu,
It's food first for us.
It is
all
food.
The restaurants.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the inspiration for the cuisine.
The food drives the wine.
The food drives the wine for sure. We try and match the wines to think about. We select them based on what we think is going to work well with the cuisine.
Okay. And then when we're done with the list, I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
Your thinking behind it. All right. Third question. Busy guy, opened multiple restaurants, just had a kid, not partying as much, if at all, ever. But
still a little bit.
Of course, because you're a young guy. But you are curious, you want to get out, you have friends in the business. So the question is, what's your favorite wine restaurant and/or bar? Could be anywhere. It could be back home. It could be back here. We're not doing it, listing it. Like, what's your number one? Just give me places that have been reliable and do it all right.
Cool. The first thing that comes to mind is Via Mas in Sagaro, which is a town about an hour and a half drive north of Barcelona.
Okay.
My favorite restaurant in the world because of the food, but mostly because of the wine. The food is fantastic too, but the wine list is
really
incredible. I think it's weird. A lot of the best places to drink French wine are in Spain because it's much more affordable there.
Right.
So I like it so much. I took my family there for a week-long trip just to go eat at this restaurant.
Wow.
We ate 6 times in 4 days. So that comes to mind first. Noble Rot in the UK. All 3 of them.
Mark.
Yeah.
Do you know Dan?
I don't know them actually, but
great. They've been on the show talking about their books.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very talented wine people and writers, but also restaurateurs. So in London, I go there and I go to Plonk. Those are the 2 places when I'm in town. I make sure I always hit. And then Braun, which is another one, has a fantastic wine program and great cooking. I could list dozens, but
what about New York?
New York, Chambers, number 1 for me. Pascaline's list, and the Sommelier has a great too. She's fantastic, and the wine list.
She's there a lot though.
Oh yeah,
which is nice.
Oh, I see her all the time.
Yeah.
The wine lists there are highly affordable, and in the sense they're not always cheap, but they're very well priced, very fairly priced, which is a problem we have in Manhattan in particular. A lot of people get quite they're quite ridiculous with their markups, so I try and avoid that. So in New York, I go there. I go to Ops for great wine. I go to Plus de Vin, which is a wine bar in Brooklyn. That's
Max.
Yeah.
He was at Roberta's when we would record there, and then Libertine.
Yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. In fact, we just were in San Antonio. He lives there now, drinking wine together.
What do you mean lives there? They moved there?
They moved there. They opened a little restaurant in San Antonio.
So the bar here goes on. With them, they didn't sell it or anything.
No, they still involved in it.
And then they're there.
They're there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll figure out why another time. Give me one more.
One more in New York. Where else do I like to go? If I'm going expensive, I'll go to Teresi or the Grill.
Okay.
And go.
So the food we know, hard reservation, great food, creative. But the wine list.
The wine list, if you want to spend a lot of money, there's value to be found.
Okay.
It's
But that's in its own, compartment.
Yeah,
The other
yeah.
places.
The other places are weeknight spots.
Right.
The grill is like Christmas Day, Christmas Eve
Right.
kind of thing. Like go there and have have an expensive experience.
Right.
I tend to not do that, but for a special occasion.
Yeah, every now and then. Ed, you're doing a good job. All right,
Thank
fourth question. Favorite all-time wine? Now, don't respond to it yet. I'm so redundant in describing this. I wanted to hear in your life, what was the rarest, most expensive wine? I don't care anymore. Tell me the wine that has had or has the biggest effect on why you drink wine, what you think about wine. You tasted this and it, opened up. It was a gateway. And it doesn't have to be one if you have multiples.
Yeah.
Can you think of a wine that checks those boxes?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but not the greatest bottle of wine I've ever drunk, but the one that's
irrelevant.
That mattered, that got me most into wine was a bottle of 1982 Rausan Segler.
Okay, great vintage
Great
year.
vintage.
Solid wine.
But yeah, producer that's had ups and downs over.
Right.
Who's
Why? Now tell me why.
Just like quality of winemaking in the cellar, I think particularly, and then also like sorting and agricultural treatments in the vineyards. Like they're moving, or at least have done in the last decade, to less and less, producing like slightly like more expressive wines. But
When did you have that 82?
So that's why it's so meaningful to me, is because it was, but right at the time I was getting into wine, I was working as a chef de cuisine of a restaurant downtown, and it was Christmas, and I couldn't afford to go home for Christmas because I worked a lot and didn't make a lot of money. And the Somm gifted me this bottle, which was probably $150-ish to their cost. But this was a decade ago, so back then, now it would be a bit more. And I sat at home on Christmas Day and drank it
So
myself.
it was 20 years after it came out when you got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no, 30 years.
30
yeah,
years,
30 years.
right.
Yeah. And it was partly being alone on Christmas in New York, and partly being like not being able to, like, sad about not being able to
the
afford all these
surrounding
things.
circumstances.
Yeah. And then tasting this wine, which, if you haven't had 82 Bordeaux, there's not a lot of stuff that tastes like that, especially not for a young palate who's, at that point, exposure to wine had been sort of like natural, funky things from the Loire that were $15 a bottle. Like,
It's a classic Bordeaux.
Yeah, those wines have their place, and I didn't have a deep knowledge or really any knowledge of classical wines.
I was going to ask you that. Did you know 82 was a killer vintage?
Only because someone had told me.
Okay.
But not through tasting.
And
Not
did
through
you know the
comparative
name
tasting.
Rausan Segler then?
Nope.
Okay.
No,
And
I probably wouldn't have.
Did that trigger you like, okay, this is Bordeaux,
Less that. It was more like, holy shit, this is wine. Like, there's
Okay, that's really what I was looking for.
like there's a depth
Forget
of flavor.
the type. It's
Right.
this was your gateway.
Yeah, this was like that's what, because I don't drink a lot of Bordeaux now, and not because I'm anti-Bordeaux or anything, just there's a lot of wine to drink, and
I'm with you on that.
I have a certain, budgetary constraints, and that, that I drink some affordable wine from Bordeaux, but like most people of my, just in this day and age, we mostly drink Burgundy and things like that.
It's shifted to that.
Yeah.
Bordeaux definitely was king of the hill, and it's definitely gone down. And Burgundy.
Yeah, it became, terroir became more important to people than winemaking, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably explains that shift. But, and just delicacy in wine, which you, with a few exceptions, tend not to find a lot of in Bordeaux, and you find a load of in Burgundy. So
good point.
People want, lighter styles of wine.
All right, final question. I think you should be able to handle this because you're on all ends: consumer, buyer, drinker, wine list maker. This is a selfish question. I put this one on for my kids. So the question is, recommend to me the best wines retail, not at a restaurant, but you're going out and buying as a gift or bringing to a friend's dinner or whatever. Recommend to me the best wine around 15, 20, 25 bucks. Recommend a red, recommend a white. You can go category. Like you can go like Pepier.
Those are great.
For the money, that's So that's the vein I'm looking for.
Okay.
What comes to your mind? Start with the white.
Gran Bazan Albarino.
Okay, so Albarino, agree on that.
Just I think they really over deliver for the price point. I think you can find them at a retail store for $20, and they have like.
So wait, give me the name again.
Gran Bazan.
Spell Bazan.
Bazan.
Like it sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's one word, Gran Bazan. Great producer in the Skurnik book. And they are, they're aromatically quite complex, at least for a $20 bottle of wine. And they have texture, they have good acidity, they are very refreshing, and they work well with quite a wide range of foods. So French wine under $20 a bottle is quite tricky. So the one you mentioned, actually, Pepier, is a great,
there's a couple other
example.
There may be something in the Loire or whatever.
Yeah.
What about what comes to mind with red? A lot of times people struggle with the red, price-wise, more than the white.
If you can find, I think you still can, the Marc Delienne Beaujolais for less than
Delienne.
Marc Delienne.
So he's a good Beaujolais maker.
An excellent Beaujolais
Tends
maker.
to sell a little less than the other guys. Is that why you brought him up?
Maybe just less.
You're talking like a village Beaujolais?
So he's in Fleury. He owns a property in Fleury. He's got into winemaking a little bit later in life. Not like super late, but he had a separate career in Paris first, and then he apprenticed at Trevaillon, and then bought this chateau in Fleury. Maybe chateau's wrong. I mean, it's just house.
Is he making just Fleury, or he's kind of got plots at other places?
He makes just Fleury and Beaujolais Village, and you can find the Avalanche de Printemps cuvée for less than $25 a bottle, I would think, and those are just like they're super fine and light and refreshing, and they're delicate wines,
I don't know if I ever had
they're
them.
very joyful. So they're, the name translates to springtime avalanche, and it's just they're very enjoyable to drink with or without food, which I think is a hallmark of good Beaujolais. But I don't know. I think red wine's actually kind of easier to find under 20. Like the Bodegas Frontonio, it's in Valdejalón, how do you pronounce that? Northeast Spain.
Right.
Excellent
There's some
garnaches.
good values up there too.
Like really excellent. It could be, if they were, in the Southern Rhone, they'd be a lot more expensive.
Right.
But I think finding wine in that price point, we're lucky that in this day and age, and this is maybe not always true, there's excellent wine being made in most regions of the world.
I know.
And you just need to
Today is unbelievable.
You need to look outside of.
Listen, this is your show, not mine, as far as the guests. But if you hook up and understand the right importer or the right regions, you're gonna, hit it, the right way if you pick wines out. You know, so be open-minded about that. All of them, everything you gave me some specific recommendations are great, and that's why I'm doing this. And I forgot to mention that we will post all of Ed's answers on our social media. That's why I ask Ed to spell things or repronounce so that, everybody understands. La Fête du Champagne, the celebration of champagne, returns to New York City from 10/22 to 10/25. Taste the selection of wines from historic houses like Salon and Ruinart to cult grower estates like Georges Laval and Charton Tallier. See you there at the grand tasting on Saturday, October 25th. For tickets and info, go to www.lafeteduchampagne.com. That's www.lafeteduchampagne.com.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
So, Ed, first inaugural wine list, almost the perfect job.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. When I say almost perfect, you want to know why it wasn't perfect?
Tell me.
Because I talk too much in that thing, all right? All right. So, let's see what's going on in your world, all right? So you interested, I don't want to get into your past. I'm going to bring it up. You studied for a career in finance. Seemed like a smart guy, good schools and all that in England. but you got sidetracked for your love and curiosity of food. What I'm curious about is about when did this happen? When did it hit hard? And did any who or what influence you?
In my I guess actually my late teens when I was at university, I was like a self-described foodie back then. I loved eating out, and I was at university in London, so it's quite easy to do that. Go around all these great restaurants, and
That wasn't that long ago.
No, it was 2012.
Many years before that, England, London was not a great restaurant.
That's true.
You know that, right?
That's true.
Okay,
Yes.
we won't get into a fight. So that was
the joke
there and important to you.
Yeah, I try and sell English food to New Yorkers. It's quite a perverse.
Well,
career
that's
path.
kind of a mission statement or a philosophy.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, yeah, I think English food is, like any cuisine. It can be delicious, and in the wrong hands, it can be terrible. So, you know, I hope I'm doing it justice.
So how does that, you're in your late teens. You were a foodie because of growing up, family, or just self?
Yeah, my mother was great, a great cook. My dad, pretty serviceable in the kitchen too. Food was important for our family. We would travel, we'd go to restaurants. Not in the we were seeking out 3 Michelin star places to go eat, but
it was an event, and you did it as a family, and
food
everyone
mattered
enjoyed it.
around, and being around the dinner table mattered. So I grew up in a household where food is important, but no. So I thought that careers in finance were what you sort of had to do if you had my back. You sort of go to private school, and then you go to university, and you go get a job at a bank, and you spend the next 30 years of your life doing that. And then you buy a little place in the Cotswolds, and you retire, and that's the path. And I went down that path and started doing these internships and stuff. And I was rather disenchanted by the lifestyle. And around the same time, a restaurant that I was a sort of not a regular at, but I enjoyed going to, posted on what was then called Twitter and said they were looking for cooks. And I was a college student with no money, so I said, maybe I'll see.
No formal cooking experience,
oh God,
right?
Not even informal cooking experience.
Fair enough.
I didn't know how to hold a knife.
Okay.
I can tell you some stories about how useless I was in the kitchen if you want, but so I applied for the job, showed up, and they sort of laughed at me and said, absolutely not, you have no idea what you're doing, which was true. And I said, well, hold on a second, what if I work for free? And they said, okay, if you want to show up every day for free, we're not going to say no. And that was a restaurant.
Did they embrace that, or to them it was like, this isn't going to work?
I think to begin with, it was this isn't going to work. Who does this guy think he is?
But you grew on him.
I was pretty persistent.
What was the formula? Persistency, yearning to learn?
Yeah, it's both of those things. You have to really care. You can't fake it, especially when you're trying to acquire a new skill. So I didn't want to be a cook because I'd seen Gordon Ramsay on TV or because I'd read Kitchen Confidential or something. I wanted to be a cook because I walked into that kitchen and fell in love with the heat, the energy, the way that the people were so skilled at things with their hands. Because I come from a world where, you've everything spreadsheets and numbers and
it's
talking.
A different passion and
how do you turn this pig into these sausages? And so that restaurant, I got really lucky here. That restaurant was called Pit Q, and it's not around anymore. But the people who were involved in it have all, every single one of them has gone on to do excellent things.
Pit Q wasn't a barbecue place, was it?
It was.
Okay.
There's an irony there that my first job was cooking American-style barbecue in London, and now I run a British-style
Do you
fish and
remember?
chips
Was it
in
like
New York.
California barbecue, Texas?
It was Pan-American, and it probably started with the pulled pork thing, and then maybe more East Coast than Texan, but eventually it morphed quite a lot as a restaurant.
Were they obsessed about it, like the type of woods and the amount of time and all that stuff?
Yeah, very much so. And they would do research trips to, the U.S. to go taste it all.
That's kind of a narrow lane, though. Starting at a barbecue place.
Right. Well, and what's interesting is that restaurant's perspective shifted a lot. It started in sort of the same way that Dame started as selling fish and chips, and now is a modern seafood restaurant with all these different creative things. It started as selling pulled pork sandwiches from a truck underneath a bridge, and then it really started being more like a modern grill style meat restaurant with a huge emphasis on animal husbandry and charcuterie and house butchery, and the barbecue element sort of got left behind and was like totally ignored, but wasn't the focus of growing the restaurant. They wanted to be more,
Right.
you know, they started caring more and more about the quality of their products and,
Right.
and how to treat them respect
Were
instead of just
people
throwing it in the
doing
smoker.
that, or they were kind of open and early on that?
The barbecue thing?
The you know, the ethical and doing
Oh.
it right, and
I think, St. John came
Right.
20 years prior.
I know
but-
that's an influence to you, St.
Yeah,
John,
I mean, that
and to
place
a
is-
lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would say they were pretty important in the quality of ingredients in the London restaurant scene in the early teens. And then, that was where I cut my teeth, and I worked there. Eventually, I kept showing up, and they said, "All right, we'll stop paying you for fine." But they'd give me a recipe, and I have no idea what to do, and I was messy, and I couldn't hold a knife. I would follow.
Are those still some of your characteristics, or you cleaned?
No, that was
No pun intended. You know,
that was a
up.
very good school. I cleaned that up real quick because
Good.
I wasn't.
So
allowed.
I don't want to get into the ascension from there. I want to kind of just jump into what you're doing here. But along the way, we talked about the wine that really was a gateway for you. But when did you really start to understand and appreciate wine at whatever extent that it's important to a restaurant, that it's complementary to food, it pairs, it tastes good? What was that after Pit and Q, or?
It was after I got to the States.
Okay.
And
So the game really upped when you crossed the pond.
And then I line cooked for a few years here first, but then when I sort of was in more senior positions in the kitchen and I was more confident in what I, could do in the kitchen, I started to be curious because I knew I always wanted to own and operate my own restaurants about other elements of it. So when I was a cook, I was always teaching myself how to do pastry stuff. And then when I became a chef, I was like, well, I'm going to teach myself how to do the wine part too. And I had a few sort of somms around then who worked at the same restaurant and were interested in sharing this knowledge with whoever would listen. And so it was about 8-9 years ago. So I would start just paying attention to them and asking questions. And then with my, then girlfriend, now wife, we would go out and drink wine and just, in a very, looking back, it's very cute and amateurish. Like there's a,
Right.
like for example,
Exploratory too.
yeah, like she'd come visit me in Tulum where I was cooking and bring 6 bottles of wine and we'd try and blind taste them. And we had no idea what we were doing, and we'd just seen one of the Somm documentaries and we gave it a go. We were way off with everything, but
It's funny.
it was a genuine curiosity for the stuff, which, and I, firmly believe this, like it's the more you learn, the more rewarding it becomes. So you start to, when you know nothing about wine, it all sort of is Greek to you, right? Like
Right.
It's all, who knows what any of
You
that.
have
You
to
can't
start putting it
contextualize
together, right?
But once and I give this advice to my staff now who want to follow in this path and become more knowledgeable, is you start to contextualize it and understand why things taste a certain way, winemaking or from the region they're from and the climate. You start to do that, it really, then it sort of opens up this whole world to explore. So that happened for me around that time. And
So you come to the States, you come at the age of 21. You talked about getting into the business in teens. You worked in New York City. Some of the stops were the Spotted Pig, Beach Racine. You were in Mexico. You mentioned you met your wife along the way. Do this quickly for me, and I'm
Sure.
begging you not to dwell on it. Give me a brief chronology and description, the genesis of your 3 restaurants.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to talk separately, but I think we can talk together about the genesis of the restaurants, the food, the concept, and then let's talk about the wine list, because you had mentioned earlier that the Corvette wine list or the Lord's wine list is
Yeah.
the biggest.
Yeah.
So what was it, in the early 20s? You
Yeah.
started, so give me
COVID.
the chronology quickly.
COVID, kind of a
Yeah.
famously terrible time to open a restaurant. The 30-second pitch is we opened Dame as a pop-up pre-COVID, selling the food that Lord sells now, modern English, chefy stuff.
Similar to that pop-up for Pit Q, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
actually,
which same thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Then COVID shuts everything down. Transition to something that's still English, takeout friendly, and good for people who are on Instagram and haven't eaten out, fish and chips. Dame turns into a fish and chip restaurant. That becomes super popular. We open the brick and mortar. That brick and mortar becomes super popular. I miss cooking the modern English food that I was making.
What year was that? 22
we
or
opened
one?
Lords, 2022, yeah. We
Okay.
opened Dame in 2020, well, 2020 as a pop-up.
Okay.
So 2022, we opened Lords because Dame is full every night. I want to cook modern English food. We do Lords. Lords also...
Stop right there for a second. Dame, tell me about the wine program.
So
This is your first shot at it.
first shot at it. I want to make a splash. 2-page wine list. On one page, it's... Okay, so it's kind of funny and silly, but one page is we titled What Austin Powers is Drinking, and it's the esoteric, funny, wild style of wine. The other page is called What James Bond is Drinking, and it's more classical, conventional wines. And this is meant to be a playful take on the natural versus conventional wine
Good way to
climate
do
we
it.
find ourselves
So you
in.
approach it with a little sense of humor.
Humor, Britishness.
Yeah, let's not
and-
get too snotty about wine, right?
No.
You know.
No, yeah. The pet nats are on one side, the champagne's on the other side. The
Right.
white burgundy's on one side, and then
So how big is the list?
80 to 100 SKUs.
2 pages.
2 pages, 50 on each. Give or
The
take.
SKU goes mostly where? France or
Mostly France, yeah, but a fair amount of the rest of Europe too.
Right.
A little bit of English sparkling wine, then
which
some.
has been very good for
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, a decade now.
Yeah,
Do you have the need for any Rieslings? A little of that,
yeah.
or
We certainly with the style of cuisine, we serve fish and chips. So
Dame Fish and Chips. There's your entry wine list. You just mentioned more Lords 22. A little more meat focused English bistro.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that fair?
Yeah.
So now what happens with that wine list? Now you have your sea legs a little
Yeah.
with the first list. Where do you go?
So I started collecting wine around this time and really building a cellar. And Dame, for anyone who's been there, knows it's a tiny restaurant. There's no storage. So one of the big reasons we took the space that Lords is in is because it has a full floor of wine storage. There's a guest-facing floor, and then there's a basement for food preparation, and then there's another basement for wine storage. So which is very rare in New York. So I sort of wanted to fill this room with the wines of the world. I wanted to have, instead of 6 or 7 burgundies, I wanted to have pages of the stuff. I wanted to really dive deep into the Jura, into Champagne, into wines of the Rhone Valley, but then also into...
Is that very personal?
It's personal.
So you said the food doesn't drive the wine earlier.
Right.
Here's a chance because you have the space and a little better body of knowledge, to get the wines and all of that.
Yeah.
So for the Lord's wine list, again, let's go back to the breakdown, the SKU. Is it predominantly French?
Yeah, still, I think probably 60 to 80% French.
But more vast in the regions?
Definitely more vast in the regions, more depth. Chances to...
Burgundy, well represented. I mean, what's another region you're proud of?
The Jura, I think
Jura.
we have maybe 15, 20 different producers from the Jura. There's a couple pages of Loire wine, specifically whites. So you can, instead of having to pick from 1 or 2 Chenons, you can pick from 38 different ones.
That makes Pascaline very happy.
Yeah.
How wide does it go? Give me some interesting, either regions or wines on the list.
I mean, we carry Czech wine
Okay.
where it's appropriate. We carry Australian wine, specifically the more...
Interesting Australia.
Yeah, we did this dinner with James, the winemaker at Jama. It's just a hell of a time to hang out with. So we carry, his wines and a few others. And, the sort of the backwaters of different region, parts of France too.
Right.
So we'll go
So
deep into the Roussillon and the Languedoc and find interesting things there that offer good value to our guests.
New York's a great market to get wine, buy wine as a consumer, as a restaurateur. Every great importer's here, so I'm sure you have access. Can you pretty much get what you want? I know stuff is on allotment and culty, but generally...
Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah.
I think the problem in New York is the pricing structure, the 3-tier system.
Yeah.
So that's the issue here for wine drinkers.
And then finally, we're sitting in Crevette, your most recent restaurant, which is way less than a year old. You opened in February. What are you doing here?
Here we're cooking the cuisine of the Mediterranean, specifically the Côte d'Azur and the Costa
So
Brava.
it's more European
Yeah.
and British than British.
Yeah. So we sort of not very British here.
Okay. So
More,
you're
it's where British people go on holiday. That's
okay.
what I say.
So they're familiar with it.
Yeah. So it's the food of Catalonia and of Provence and of Liguria and Galicia, so all of these coastal regions in the north of Spain and the south of France, with a little bit of Italy sprinkled
So
in.
tell me about the wine list.
So, well, fortunately, all of these
Is
regions...
it bigger than Dame and not as big as Lords?
Exactly. Bigger than Dame, not as big as Lords.
Okay.
These regions that we're pulling the culinary inspiration from all make wine. You know, we couldn't have an all-English wine list at Dame. That would be quite limiting. But here we really do try to focus on the wines of Provence and the Rhone Valley, and then the wines of Catalonia and Galicia, and a few Italian some island wines sprinkled in too. And then, there's a selection of Champagne and Burgundy for people who want to drink those, which is never going to go away. But yeah, this is a nice place to come and drink some white Rhone wine. And
so if you had to be buried in the North or South Rhone, which one?
The Northern Rhone. I mean, if I could be buried at Rias, I'd take that. But
yeah,
with the exception
I agree.
of that property, I'd be buried in in Côte-Rôtie.
All right, 2 last questions, and then we got to wrap up. Or maybe 3. To you, the most interesting and diverse list of the 3?
Lords. Lords is
because
of its breadth and its pricing.
This is what's your favorite kid question?
Yeah.
Favorite list? I mean, is it obviously Lords or not necessarily?
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily, but for me it is. Yeah.
Okay. How important to your restaurants is the wine program? Is it complimentary? Is it important because you have such a hand in it? Is it an important revenue center? I mean, how does that fit in?
I mean, it's a passion project of mine, so it's very important to me
to get it right.
Yeah, and from an emotional sense, it's hyper important. From a financial sense, it's actually not that. We sell martinis, and that's we sell a lot of
drinks program. But that's sort of a trend. I mean, you and I could, because you are a true restaurateur, could talk about the trends: less wine, younger drinkers, moving to cocktails. Yeah. So you feel a little of that.
I wish we sold more wine. I wish we did.
Yeah. Those days may be gone, Ed.
Yeah,
you may be seeing the levels. That sort of hopefully maintain, maybe grow a little.
Well, my accountant thinks we spend too much money on wine, so that gives you.
Well, I knew that. I mean, I knew. When I was doing the podcast, I'm like, Jesus, this guy went from like a pop-up to a restaurant and put a little nice wine list together. He must have freaked out when he had to start buying all the wine. Yeah. That could be the single most, because you can get your food delivered weekly type thing. The wine, you got to take boxes. All right, last question. What's in the future for you? Keep going where you're at? I mean, do you have that itch to, you have any other concepts floating around?
Oh, yeah. Yes, okay. Several. The immediate future is to focus on these 3 and, our family. But next year, we'll probably start working on another concept or 2. And then long term, I'd like to maybe open one of these or something different in the UK, in London, where
Great
I'm from.
Idea. I like that idea.
But I got to be very careful about that, because we don't want to be the English guy in New York who brings the English food back to London.
Listen, you have a good feel for everything. You'll know if and when it's the right time. I also asked you before we did the show, how do you maintain that quality and stay on top of things when you go from one restaurant to 2 to 3? And, you told me I'm walking distance from each one, and I actually walk in a night to each one. And I want people to know that. So that's Ed Szymanski. Ed is the proprietor and the head wino at Dame, Lords, and Curvette, all downtown in New York City. I always say there's no reason to go above 23rd Street. So, you're down here. All right, Ed, I'm going to do a quick wrap up, and I want to get some info from you. So thanks for listening. If you'd like to contact the wine list, we are at samatthegrapenation.com. That's samatthegrapenation.com. The Wine List podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitchers, or wherever you get your pods. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review if you like what you hear. Follow us on Instagram at SBenRuby. That's where I'm going to post Ed's wine lists. We're on X at BenRuby. There's an S on one and just BenRuby on the other. We're also on the Facebook at the Grape Nation page, which will include the wine list page. And as I said, we'll post all of Ed's picks on our social media sites. Ed, a couple things. Where can we find you on social media if you're active? And where can people get more information on restaurants? Hey, that sounds cool. How do I get a reservation? Where can I look at the menus? Where do we go? First, social media. Are you somewhat active?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the restaurants are more active than I am personally.
Right.
So the best thing to do is follow them.
Okay.
It's Dame NYC, Lords NYC, I think Crevette NYC as well. But if
it'll come up in the search.
Anyway. Yeah. If you click on one of them, the others will come up.
Yeah. Because I know on each, even what's your personal?
Ed.Z. And then my last name, which is SZYMANSKI.
And then websites for each restaurant?
Yeah. Yeah. The domain names are always taken when you try and do one. So one it's Dame New York, and then Lords is lordsenglish.com.
Okay.
And Crevette, I think, is
just Google it.
.nyc. Yeah.
I mean, I know when I Googled it.
Yeah. They're easy. If you want to find them, they're easy to find.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank our guest, Ed Szymanski. I want to thank our engineer, Armin, and everyone at the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Sam Ben-Ruby, and you got this week's wine list. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.